So MSNBC is really hyping AOC and Bernie as contenders, or either AOC to be a contender for the White House. I know. And many of you might be wondering, oh no, Kit, please, no more of this. Well, we do have to address this because I want to put a stop to this before it gets out of hand. I remember 2016. We addressed this in the post-duopoly show. I know Nick from RBN and Nico House as well have broken this down, but I see it happening. I see a scenario where AOC is making these speeches and people are surrounding around her. The Democrats, to be fair here, do not have a plan. Hakeem Jeffries, Pete Buttigieg, and everyone else that's part of the Democratic establishment, they're not front card kind of people to draw in thousands upon thousands of people to fill up arenas. AOC and Bernie have that push and pull, to be clear about that. But what causes the red flags to be a waving, the alarm bells to be a ringing, is I see people being herded back into the Democrat Party, AOC being hyped up as a jobber, being a face in a primary race. And then, oh, guys, we couldn't win the primary, but let's go ahead and vote for the Democrats. That's what I see happening. A lot of hopium, copium, and I see a lot of people, to be clear, social media and 2028 will be a gold mine in content. Debate me, bro. It will be. And there are going to be certain channels that are going to be hyping up an AOC run. I remember 2016 and how TYT exploded in popularity when they started covering Bernie Sanders before we all knew who he really was. Okay? And that can happen again. And people cannot fall in the trap of electoral politics, mutual aid, supporting and building up third parties, and that means Greens, Libertarians, Independents. If you are who you say you are, you need to start preparing and building up your infrastructure. This isn't just sitting on your ass. You have to start doing things. All right? A lot was left to be desired in the 2024 election cycle. But even then, we can't vote our way out of this. Citizen ballot initiatives, mutual aid, and building movements and organizations that won't be co-opted by the Democrats. But MSNBC seems to be hyping up an AOC run. I know. Shout out to Case Study QB. I don't know how you sit through it, Case Study. You're a better man than me.
I don't think this is Trump country. I think this is our country.
She's good. Since Donald Trump returned to the Oval Office, voters in this country who did not think this was a particularly good idea have been looking for the fire in the belly from the opposition, from the pro-democracy coalition and from Democrats. It is indisputable that the people leading the opposition in this country right now is, one, that woman you just saw, Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, and her Senate counterpart, Bernie Sanders. They have been barnstorming the country on their fighting oligarchy tour, hitting many red states in the process. Last night, they were in Folsom, California. They spoke to a crowd of over 30,000 people. Now, just to put that in context, the population of Folsom is 80,000 people. It's a smallish town outside of Sacramento, California. Senator Bernie Sanders is currently speaking to a capacity crowd of 7,500 attendees, with another 1,500 attendees, part of an overflow area outside, according to Sanders' communications director. This past Sunday, the group brought out 20,000 people in Salt Lake City, Utah. The following day in Nampa, Idaho, more than 12,000 people showed up. And as the duo go into deep red Republican states and congressional districts, they're reminding the voters there, who are not their constituents, that they are the ones talking to voters, not their own elected representatives. Here's Bernie Sanders calling out California Republican David Vallado at a separate rally yesterday in Bakersfield, California.
I come from the state of Vermont, and I'm here in Bakersfield. Alexandria comes from New York, and she is here in Bakersfield. Now, Mr. Congressman, you live in this district. Why don't you show up at a town meeting like this?
Now, I know a lot of you are burnt out by this. Hear me out here. Hear me out here. I'm trying to set up at least, or make all of you aware, that there's going to be a lot of disappointed people when they find out that this is a way that they got tricked into the Democrat Party again. See, Trump, we all know, he likes to trigger people. Trump likes to rile people up. These are things that we know. These are things that we're familiar with. And this is how the Republican Party once again helps out the Democrat Party, like the Democrat Party helps out the Republican Party. It's a sick cycle that has to be broken. And there's a lot of people now so upset because they're mentally or emotionally scarred by the words of Trump and his administration. They're going right back to their abuser. This is called returning back to the abuse. See, the Democrat Party, as I've said on the show, is an abuser. It's an abusive spouse. They will beat you. They will cheat on you. They will steal money from you. They will crash your car, but still say that they love you as soon as you get the spine to say, I'm ready to leave. But see, the problem is many victims of abuse, when they're out in the wide world, get afraid. They're afraid of the false protection from the abuser. And so they see somebody like Donald Trump as this titan. And, oh, no, how do we stop him? How do we stop him? See, Trump feeds on fear. Okay, Trump's going to feed on emotionally stunted people. And in turn, a lot of these voters then start crawling back. Oh, Bernie and AOC, this time we could do it. Justice Democrats, brand new Congress, our revolution, DSA. We're going to rally. We're going to protest. And then when it's finally time to fight back, oh, we can't do it. Pay close attention how 2026 will play out, because a lot of Democrats, I'm willing to bet, are going to be running on the impeachment initiative.
It's a perfectly good question. Why don't you? Now, there are some elected Republicans who are having town hall events, none of them that big. Marjorie Taylor Greene, who asked attendees to present their IDs in order to prove they live in her district. Security spent much of the event removing anybody who protested or spoke out, even tasing two attendees. Joining our coverage is chief political columnist, host of the In Politic podcast for Puck, MSNBC national affairs analyst John Heilman. Joins our merry gang. David and Mara are still here. John Heilman, what do you think of the AOC Bernie tour?
Well, first of all, I think tequila and Quaalude sounds pretty good.
No, it doesn't. Why would you bring that up, you moron?
Is that what's on the menu? Is that what's on the menu today?
This is a great line. It was on the menu in the I kept you separate from the Quaaludes conversation on purpose. It's over. We have taken a break, and we are now back with Bernie and AOC.
It's good. Tequila and Quaalude.
And yes, I'm realizing that there's something wrong with this guy's mic. It's not us.
Quaaludes are never over for me, Nicole. No regret of fashion. What do I think? I think it's I followed Bernie Sanders around on the campaign trail with the circus in 2015 and 2016, and I have charted and tracked his progress ever since. And it's the reality that part of the thing that makes Bernie Sanders so compelling to a lot of people is that he has been so consistent throughout that entire time. The man has a consistent set of core beliefs. He has stuck to them. He speaks too long. He's not a conventional politician. He's, now an 83-year-old man who has that Larry David kind of yelling at you and lecturing to you kind of mode, which people love because of the authenticity of it. And I think he's found in Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez a perfect generational inheritor, someone who has a very unique and very authentic seeming, feeling, being way of communicating on the campaign trail. The fact that they are doing what they're doing, and they're doing it now, and they have the national platform, they have the national profile. There are a lot of Democrats who are out trying to do the same work, and I don't want to forget that there are congressmen and senators all over the place. But these two, because of the kind of following they have combined, means that they can go to Folsom and Bakersfield and Salt Lake City and turn out these really large crowds of people who are desperate to hear this kind of message, and the message that they are honing in on right now, which is to tie together the story of Kilmar Abrego Garcia to the stories of a lot of other people who are being disappeared, put in detention centers for nothing but exercising their free speech rights. That is resonating like crazy right now. I think not just with the Democratic base, but with a lot of Americans who are starting to get nervous about the prospect that they could be next.
All right. A lot. I wanted that to play out to this point here. All right. How convenient that a lot of these people are now showing up like, oh, we could be next. We could be next. First of all, as much as 4 years ago or maybe 8 years ago, myself and Daniel, Hardlands Media, we would have been on board to see these rallies back in the day. But see, it's all a trick and an illusion because during the 4 years of the Biden-Harris administration, I have to bring this up because I got that 1,000-mile stare of censorship. Okay? The warnings, the threats of deplatforming, censorship, and suppression. I've been through these trenches. It is not a fun thing. And I remember a lot of these latte drinking liberals, these mimosa drinking liberals, these brunch eating liberals saying, oh, you should be deplatformed, or you better be careful what you say. AOC was cheering along. Bernie Sanders was cheering along. And now what Trump is doing, deporting, going after people, you know. Well, maybe the Democrats and Biden and Harris should not have set up that big, massive censorship infrastructure that they did. Because you know what? Trump walks in, see, oh, it was like that when I got here. Because you're worried that it's going to happen to you next now. How convenient. I've been hearing from so many people during the last 4 years, oh, you guys better be very careful what you say. You guys better be careful. Or, oh, it'd be a shame if you guys got deplatformed, demonetized. It would be a shame. It would be a shame. A lot of people who were all on board for Bernie Sanders too and AOC now drinking that liberal soup. But you're afraid it's going to happen to you next now. Well, welcome to the horror. Guess who set it up, especially the major foundations of it, the Biden-Harris administration, to regulate, to censor, to suppress, to deplatform. Now you're afraid it's going to happen to you. Oh, good to have you here, buddy. Did you realize that you were cheering along the people who were supporting it? Bernie said that Joe Biden's his good friend. AOC said that Biden was exceeding expectations. And now there's this hype being built around AOC to where if what I see happening is going to happen, this is going to be Bernie Sanders 3.0. This is just my opinion alone. I think she very well could pull off a lot of support, profiting off the Trump derangement syndrome to where she could very well be a contender in the 2028 election cycle. Not out of support, because no, I'm not voting Democrat or Republican, but I see it happening. And you know what that means too? Any ounce of criticism towards AOC, what you said was violent. What you said is going to be deplatformed. Whoa, you're going to get censored. Because a long time ago, it was unthinkable to be criticizing Bernie. Okay? Took a lot of courage for a lot of people to step up and do that. Jimmy Dore, Hardlands Media, RBN, Do Dissidents, like a lot of us have been dealing, INN, a lot of us have been dealing with a lot of that pushback. But I see I see a cycle repeating itself. 2016 happening in 2028 to where you're going to have certain people promoting and jumping on board the AOC bandwagon. Now, why is this important? Because I want to pull this up here. This is an article that recently happened. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez has come a long way since 2028, when she first arrived on the political scene by beating out not just an incumbent, but a member of her party's leadership in the Democrat primary contest. She was a rebel, air quote, an avatar of insurgent impulses within her coalition, and among Republicans, something of a joke. Now she's the Democrat Party's most popular elected official. Great. Don't ask her to do force the vote. A Yale University poll released this week found that among Democrats, Ocasio-Cortez boasts the single highest net favorability rating of all parties, many potential 2028 presidential candidates, a sky-high 62%. In addition, 41% of the same cohort said they have strongly favorable opinion of the progressive congresswoman, again, the largest portion to say as much about any Democrat. And when asked whom they would support if the 2028 presidential primaries were held today, AOC finished a very strong second. This is how you know you got morons in the Democrat Party. Former Vice President Kamala Harris at 28% was the only prospective candidate to edge her out. Ocasio-Cortez 21% placed her well ahead of the bronze medalist Pete Buttigieg at 14%. Here we go again. Here we go again. Look, if they try and pull Kamala out again, this is beyond dumb. It's hard to overstate just how impressive, a feat this is, especially considering the 35-year-old New Yorker also had the second highest name recognition in the poll behind only Harris. If anyone really thinks that Kamala Harris ran an expert campaign, You are the dumbest person ever. Okay, it took her campaign 45 days to have policies on their website, on her campaign website. I used to play a game with my audience. Did Kamala update her campaign website? Okay, a lot of great merch, but for 45 days, I was playing that game with my audience. Did Kamala put in policies? And here's the thing. Trump had policies on his campaign website. RFK Jr., Dr. Cornel West, Dr. Jill Stein. Okay? Even the libertarians had campaign policies and promises on their website. Even Joe Biden and even the Democrat challengers, even Cenk Uygur, and Kamala. Listen, when you launch a campaign, controversial statement to say here, especially for the K-Hive Kamala people, when you launch the website, everything should be there, from news updates. Yes, you got to have your merch, right, baby? A little bit of bio about the politician and controversial statement here, but even the policies and issues that they're running on. And that all should be ready at the get-go on day one. Maybe I'm a dreamer. Maybe I dream too high. I'm sorry. I'm an idealist. You know, maybe my standards are just too high. Maybe it's me. Yes, it is you, kid. It's always been you. Continue on. Just 11.7% of the polls Democrats said they haven't heard of or have no opinion of her, which makes her superb favoring rating all the more breathtaking. But wait, there's more. Harris is a very, very soft frontrunner. Oof. If she can even be called that. The 2024 Democrat presidential nominee lost every single battleground state to Donald Trump last fall. Yeah, she got smacked around. There you go. I mean, there's no sugarcoating it. As Trump continues to facilitate liberal teeth gashing through his second term, anger at Harris over her dismal performance will only grow. Yes, people should have been up. She was appointed as the nominee. Okay, Democrats realized that she was a moron and no one wanted to step up. That's why there wasn't any primary. Okay, that's why there wasn't a primary challenge. That's why it all ended in disaster, because most of the Democrat leadership realized, she's a moron. If she wins, she wins. If she loses, we can regroup. So continue on. And so will the Democrats' appetite for a fire breather like AOC, who can count on Senator Bernie Sanders to throw his full weight behind her. Oh, how to break in 2 seconds. I remember how Nancy made her cry. When one of Harris' opponents on a primary debate stage asked her why voters should trust her to win this time around, what satisfying answer could she possibly produce? She's already 0 for 2 on the presidential campaign trail. Since when Harris first ran for the presidency back in 2020, she flamed out spectacularly. Yes, she did. She made her announcement on Martin Luther King Day way back in 2019. Before the first primary vote was even cast, her campaign went bankrupt. Belly up. Dead in the water. With AOC well positioned to make a run at the Democrat nomination in 2028, no doubt some Republicans will be giddy at the prospect of facing down the self-described socialist with demonstrated champagne taste. I'll never forget that AOC did go to that Met Gala event, right? National Review's Rich Lowry has gone so far to submit that if she's the party's future, Democrats stand no chance. It's true that any competent GOP campaign will make significant hay of AOC's glaring vulnerabilities. The Boston University economics and international relations major has regularly embarrassed herself on both topics. Her Green New Deal package was so unpopular that it was mocked out of existence. And not to mention AOC constantly smearing and going after third parties. You do realize that she was a member of the Green Party at one point. At least that she used to volunteer for them. Shout out to Roger Meadows for that wonderful Twitter screenshot. She lacks any of the executive or managerial experience that persuadable voters claim to value in a candidate. And although she has a talent for stealing headlines, they're often the wrong ones. Her taste for the good life, climbing it up at a Met Gala, then sniffing designers on the bill, and taking first-class flight on her way to an anti-oligarchy rally undermines her message to the working class, as does her weepy open borders advocacy. But her potential opponents would be unwise to underestimate her. I would not underestimate her either. I wouldn't do it. Here's why. There's a lot of Democrats that are drinking that hopium copium. They want to believe in something so badly. They want to believe that this time around the Democrats can actually change things. They want to believe. And mainstream media is now in a little bit of a quandary, because until the Democrats can produce a quasi Bill Clinton, Obama, Michelle Obama, or Hillary Clinton type candidate, this is the best they can do. And we have learned firsthand, especially from a lot of reports about how the Democrats admit they're a private institution. They don't want a Bernie Sanders to win. Bernie Sanders had a unique lightning in the bottle kind of moment to change things up in 2016, and it could be argued a little bit in 2020, but he chose not to. Now, I think we all know Democrats are a big party tent, and if Democrats are given the script, here's how you're supposed to act, here's how you're supposed to respond to this, they're more than happy to follow the orders. I'm going to just play a little bit more of this video and brace yourself for more of the madness.
I mean, Derek, the other piece that they lay over isn't just the economic anxiety and the things that you and your co-author write about, but it is the corruption. And that seems to have deep resonance across party lines.
Yeah, I think it's really important to point out not just the people who are showing up to these Sanders AOC meetings, but also the fact that they're showing up and that other Democrats are trying to show up. And you juxtapose that to a theory of politics that was in sway between 2020 and 2024 when Joe Biden was president. And he wasn't going out to talk to people, and he wasn't interested in appearing in the Super Bowl interviews that would have garnered, 40, 50 million views. There was this period, I think, when Democrats were sort of hiding behind the curtain and hoping that no one would ask them tough questions. It's been really inspiring, I think, to see how many people are embracing the opposite of that message. Not only do you have Bernie and AOC going to city after city, small and big around the country, you have Cory Booker talking for 25 hours. You've got...
Oh, God. 25 hours about what? What was Cory Booker saying? Trump's scary and bad. Okay, yes, I get it. Yeah, Trump. You know, there's going to be a point where Donald Trump is not going to be the president. We all do realize that. And I know people say, oh, he's thinking about running for a third term. Well, if he does, you know what? Here's my thoughts on a Trump third term. I don't know what's going to happen to the American Republic, our nation, our empire. Who knows? We're living in the fall of Rome, but this time with memes. Okay? Stop living in fear. Life is supposed to be enjoyed. And I get things are scary. I get things are tough. But we have a chance here, maybe. This could be the last chance to really turn things around here. Voting our way out of this is not going to help. And I know, yes, part of my job here is to cover politics, elections, everything. I get it. But it's got to be something different. And as I said on the Post-Duopoly show, each of you watching this show or our shows, you got to be a legion in your own right. You have to be an army in your own right. And that means taking up the arduous task of being a community leader, helping out your town, your city, your state, and whatever which way it can, be it small or large, you got to do it. Building movements and organizations not connected to Washington, D.C., because I see 2028. I see the cards being lined up. I see the dominoes being lined up for the perfect fall of, oh, here we go again. We're going to have a lightning in the bottle kind of moment on the left and the right. You're going to have some spark debates here and there. And it's, this time around, because of the influence of social media and rapid information, people could easily get suckered into voting Team Red and Team Blue. And that's what we got to break here. Do I think we can succeed? Possibly. But it requires having the uncomfortable conversations of sitting people down saying, hey, it's more than just voting Democrat or Republican. It's about building our communities and having these politicians come crawling to us and breaking that system. That's what it comes down to. That's how we break this. And I know right now, I'm surprised that MSNBC is even giving some kind of positivity or coverage to Bernie and AOC, but it's all an act. It's all an act now because people are afraid. And when people are afraid, they lose their cognitive ability, their rational thinking, and they fall into, oh, this person will keep me safe. The politicians are not the knights on the hill. You are the knight on the hill. Now charge and break away from this. Otherwise, we got more of the same. And the ending, if you think it's a happy ending, you have not been paying attention.
If you fool me once, it's because I didn't think a guard was needed. If you fool me twice, it's because I didn't learn the lesson, so it bears repeating. If you try the same play 3 times running, it's because you know what's coming, and you didn't come to lead, you came to purposefully be misleading. Democracy is dry. It's been a century bleeding. The husk is gaping open to the sky, out in the field where all the sheep just keep on circling and worrying and bleeding. They're waiting for the shepherd that they've tried to hide their faith in, but he's so appealing. They'd gladly give their fleece. It's such a freeing feeling that even when he leads them to the ledge and starts to urge them on, they're positively beaming. They were told that they were on their way to save democracy, so even as they plummet, they just gloat. They don't consider screaming. And halfway up the cliff, the shepherd's cozy little mittens wrap around the staff of shattered human hopes on which he's leaning. He shows the gentle grin that used to stir your inner spark, and he says, "Not me, us," as he gestures to the oligarchs. He knows that if he runs, they're going to stop him like a stolen car. And he'll easily surrender because it bought a lot of time for laying mines in all the grassroots. Suddenly, the tiniest of movements gets you blown apart. Suddenly, you're in a play that's set on an election day, and voting for the fire, unaware you're playing Joan of Arc. Suddenly, the shepherd pulls the rug and slips a hood across your clueless mug, and everything goes zero dark. I'm gonna warn you once more before it's 2024 and you fuck around and find out who your heroes are. To take a step back from the herd, and you'll learn that you can spot who all the shearers are. If you really want to know the product that they're selling, I can take you where the mirrors are. If you think your voice is finally ready, I can tell you where the lyrics are. I hid them in a box I had to bury neath the cobble when they carpet bombed the promenade and raided all the street bazaars. Now all we've got's the marketplace, and you're too broke to even bother asking what the options for your treatment are. Suddenly, the raw debris of homeless human dignity will find it has 100 teeth for every badge and sweeper's arm. Suddenly, they speak in solidarity and each is armed. Suddenly, the sheep can see the shepherd for his truest form and all pitch in at once to help him buy the farm. And now it's zero dark, and all is calm and peaceful save the distant wail of sirens that approach beside the flames of dawn. Suddenly, the carrot's just a string that's on a stick, and all your movements make you sick because the prize is gone. Now, we could go and flee into the forest low and meek, or we can exercise our right to feast and go and graze on Biden's lawn. Because he's been sowing seeds that seep a toxin out to sap a bit from each of us and keep on leaching decades after Biden's gone. So regardless who they summon out of hell to come and do the job, it will not feel like Biden's gone. But in that time of hopelessness, you cannot trust the shepherd when he once again comes asking you to humor him his siren song. And it's cute that you can innocently, honestly assume that's just a symptom of a system that was wired wrong, and not the standard feature, basic function, primary objective of a mass hypnosis firebomb. You don't need to know the words to cry along. Someday it'll hit you like an officer who pistol whipped their ride along. Broke his jaw and kept his job and kept it moving right along. That voting isn't red or blue or black or white or right or wrong. Voting's like a firing squad where you can choose the firearm. It's slow extinction by and large. It's Super Tuesday supercharged. It's all your futures, roots and all, just tossed out on a garbage barge. It's everybody dropping out to push the biggest oligarch. It's everybody voting fire, registered as Joan of Arc.